Good evening, America. Welcome to Battleground Live. This is the show where we kick ass and we take names and we lock horns with the radical left. We never quit. We never surrender. From sea to shining sea and everybody in between. Welcome, Patriots, on this Wednesday, this glorious Savage Wednesday. At some point, we're going to have Savage Rich Baris on deck to break down all of the news and just the absurdity. And I mean this in the truest sense, the absurdity of the Democrats and the RFK Jr. hearing. We got that and so much more today, but something that I saw just before I went live, and sorry, I wasn't in the live chat as often as I wanted to be today because there is a lot happening. It's almost too much for the news to cover, and in fact, that is exactly the point. That's what President Trump and his team are doing. They are being ruthlessly efficient with regards to implementing their agenda that he was put in office to implement. I'm serious, folks. Things are happening so fast and so efficiently. It's hard to cover it all. But one of the things that I saw, the Laken-Riley Act was signed into law today. It's the first bill that President Trump signed into law in his second term in office. And there was something that I just wanted you to see, video that I wanted you to see. Let me see if I can get this to work for you. But I want you to watch President Trump's reaction while Laken-Riley's mom is talking. Listen.
We also want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he has done. He's a man of his word. We trust that he will fight for the American people. Most importantly, I want to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without his sacrifices, Laken's story would have ended on that horrific day that she was taken from us. But because of him, we can continue living knowing that we will see Laken again.
Obviously, that is very, very hard to watch. Very hard to watch. And, you know, folks, I wanted to show you that. I wanted you to hear that. And if you're listening to the show, I really encourage you to come on over here, subscribe, and join us here on the video portion of the podcast. But I like to show you that side of President Trump that is never shown by our media, and only people that truly know this man and have spent time around this man can tell you about him. President Trump is somebody who just really deeply cares about people. And yes, you know, he's a hard hitter. Yes, he says what he wants to say 100% of the time. That's part of what I admire about him. No matter what is happening around him, no matter how bad or good things are, he is exactly the same. No matter how he is at that podium today, signing the Laken-Riley Act into a law, no matter how he was at the podium during that, he's exactly the same behind closed doors. I admire that. I think it's a form of mental toughness. But he's also somebody that cares a lot about the people of this country, who cares a lot about this country. And I wanted to show you that, of him clearly getting emotional as Laken-Riley's mother spoke at the signing of that bill. Because you don't get to see that side of President Trump very often. Okay, let me pivot to some other breaking news that happened just before I went live. And as I'm going through this stuff, make sure you smash that like button, the little gray thumb beneath the video. When you smash it, it turns green. When it turns green, it helps propel us to the Rumble leaderboard. And we make it every single day because of you all. So thank you. But news that broke just before the show, President Trump signed settlement papers that are expected to require Meta platforms, which is essentially Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, to pay $25 million to resolve a 2021 lawsuit Trump brought after the company suspended all of his accounts following the attacks on the U.S. Capitol, the mostly peaceful protest on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. $22 million of this settlement is going to go to Trump's presidential library, which, listen, this guy deserves all of these wins more than just about anybody else. And I mean that. I know he's the most powerful man in the world. He sure as hell doesn't need me out here saying this for him. He can defend himself, and he has, but this guy has been put through the ringer. But I'm telling you folks, these first week and a half of this man's presidency, not only is he making good on the promises that he made the American people, but he is going above and beyond and exceeding all expectations for us. And you know what, Hegseth in the Department of Defense, his first couple days, one of the very first things that he did was pull General Milley's, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, pull his security clearance, pull his security guards, and then launch an investigation into his background that might end up demoting Milley from 4 stars to 3 stars, which, you hear that and you think, to me, it's a big deal. It's a start. But General Milley, did some very, very terrible stuff while President Trump was in office and thereafter. General Milley called President Trump a wannabe dictator while he was in his uniform. Milley obviously was responsible for the collapse of Afghanistan. And many people say, well, that falls with the Secretary of Defense. Yeah, maybe. But Milley didn't have to be spending his time in Senate hearings lamenting white rage and his desire to learn more about it. That happened about 3 to 4 months prior to the fall of Afghanistan. Rather than doing that, being on Capitol Hill, schmoozing with all these politicians, maybe he should have been planning a more responsible withdrawal, one that did not end in the needless death of 13 Americans, one that did not involve us using Kandahar Airport as opposed to Bagram, which would have made all the sense in the world. Milley actually told his Chinese counterpart that he would let them know prior to a U.S. attack on the country if there was going to be attacked. To me, that is undermining the chain of command. That undermines the commander-in-chief. It puts him before the commander-in-chief. And as news continues to come out on January 6th, I'm telling you, there's Milley on his way out, classified, all sorts of things that pertain to January 6th, I think that absolutely need to be made public. But as evidence continues to come out about January 6th, you watch, I bet you that Milley is at the center of a whole hell of a lot of it. So I've got Savage Rich Baris on deck here. I don't want to waste any time with him. I see him. He's getting warmed up in the green room, but let me tell you a little bit about Good Ranchers before you bring him on. That way we've got uninterrupted time with Savage Rich, but check out Good Ranchers and we'll be right back with Savage Rich.
What makes America great? We believe it's the fact that anyone can dream and work to make that dream come true. Good Ranchers started with the dream that American meals should come from American farms. We believe you should know the source and trust the source. With the overwhelming majority of grass-fed beef sold in the U.S. being imported from overseas, American farmers are hurting, and ranches that have been here for generations are closing for good. That's why we decided to travel the country, connect with local farms and ranches, and sit down with real Americans to find out what they needed and how we could best serve them. We then took everything we learned and we put it into our boxes. When you open a Good Ranchers box, it's not just full of 100% American meat that is steakhouse quality. It's full of a supply chain that supports American-made only. It's full of a commitment to help American farms and American families thrive. Where do you come in? You already have. You're the first domino that starts the chain. Your order enters the system, supports the farms, cuts the meat, seals the package, packs the box, loads the truck, unloads it to your door, and feeds your family. You are the fuel for Good Ranchers. You're helping keep farms open across the country, and donating countless meals to those in need with your purchase. We're not here to stand in the spotlight. Our story is best when it's part of yours. We want to put the focus on those who need it and deserve it, on the farms and ranches that are continuing generations of tradition and quality, on the Americans who need a good meal and not sure where it'll come from, on the people who want to do good and eat good, on you. This is our way of asking if we can join you for dinner. Can we have a place in the center of each plate? We'll bring the meat. You make the memory.
So whether you're trying to eat healthier, enjoy more moments with your family, or spend less money on going out to eat, goodranchers.com/VNN. That's the website. Goodranchers.com/VNN is here to help you turn all your resolutions into solutions. When you buy your meat from Good Ranchers, you're directly supporting local farms and ranches in the United States while skipping imported meats and the hassle of going to the grocery store. During Good Ranchers New Year, New Meat special, you can subscribe to any box of their high quality 100% American meat and wild caught seafood. Use the promo code VNN. You'll get $25 off, free express shipping, and you get free ground beef, chicken, or salmon in every order delivered for a year. That's right. You get free ground beef, chicken, or salmon for a year. One of those three. So start 2025 with better choices, better meals, and better moments at home. Remember to visit goodranchers.com/VNN. Use the promo code VNN today for American meat delivered. Okay. Without further ado, let me bring my buddy on. This is Savage Rich Baris, the director of Big Data Poll and host of a great show called Inside the Numbers. Welcome, my friend. I see you vaping back there.
You don't see anything. What are you talking about?
You know what's funny, Rich?
Oh, it still came out.
You know, so last week we did our show, and
Yep.
I think I had a record viewing audience when you were on with me last week. And during this show, you said that you wear Lululemon. Did I hear this correct?
I got a Lululemon hoodie. It's a man's hoodie now. My daughter loves Lululemon. Like all the dancing girls love Lululemon. And my wife is like, "What is up with Lululemon? I'm gonna try it." So she got herself like a I don't know, like pants and sweatshirt or something. And she's like, "Oh my God, this is so nice." So at a convention when they were at it, she's like, "Look, there's a Lululemon sweatshirt that's on sale. You want me to like get it and see if you like it?" And I'm like, I guess whatever, Laura, get it for me. I will tell you right now, as a heterosexual,
I noticed how you had to throw that in there. You had to throw that in there.
I am telling you, Lululemon is the bomb. It is so cozy. It is so comfortable. And now I know why they wear it. Plus, it's got... It's soft and I love it. She just said, absolutely. And I forgot what guarantee it is. I forgot what the guarantee is, Sean, but I'm telling you, brother, it's legit.
Hearing Laura yell in the background, just tell him you think it's soft.
She pops in and goes, "You think it's soft and you love it."
So let me get this straight. So you wear Lululemon and you also drive a Subaru.
For now. But
For now.
Look, I drive, just so everybody knows, I drive a Subaru Touring Ascent with Java leather, all right, and wood paneling. It's fly, okay? He says, "So you wear Lululemon and you drive a Subaru."
That means he's a dependable.
She said, "That means I'm a dependable man." Oh, Lord, I'm going out.
You know what? If you've got the backing of a good woman, and you clearly do, it doesn't matter what you drive. It doesn't matter what you wear. She has your back. True. It's fine. It's fine.
So true. That is so true.
I've been wanting to ask you that for a week. You could tell I've had this bottled up. I was like, did Rich say that he wears Lululemon? Did I hear that right? I mean, hey, if it's comfortable, it's comfortable, right?
The only other sweatshirts that I think are as comfortable as Lululemon, and honestly, if I'm being like, totally unbiased, is that I pride myself in how comfortable the People's Pundit sweatshirts are, hoodie and non-hoodie. And I was shopping around being a total pain in the butt when Laura was looking for merch. And in fact, that's why we're looking for new merch now, because their quality was not the same. And I'm like, well, that's it. So we'll freeze it until we can do better. I think Lululemon probably is a little is soft, and not probably it's softer, and I
Well, it
always
better be.
love
It's expensive, isn't it?
it is very. And when she said on sale, I'm like, wait, that's a sale? Because I just and Laura's so good. I'll tell you what, a lot of friends I know and a lot of guys that you hear their wives do this with their, they buy this, they buy that. Not mine. The only problem that I have to worry about with my wife when it comes to buying stuff, she is the better one with money. And the only problem I ever have to worry about is when I take her into Lowe's or something. And then like that's a good problem to have, guys. You know what I'm talking about. Right?
I agree. I lucked out in that department too. But do you know that Commander Melanie and Savage Laura text during the show and make fun of us, right?
They do. Yes.
Like that's probably happening right now.
I found that out a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, you texted me and you're like, dude, they talk shit on us while we do the show.
That's when I realized it was going down because your wife, I see that smirk and I'm like, who are you texting? She's like, I'm talking to Melanie. And I'm like, what are you saying about it?
Oh my God.
So funny though. Let them have their laughs. What else are we good for, honestly, right?
So shift gears with me. What do you think about the Millie stuff and Hegseth wasting no time going after Millie's security clearances, security detail, and investigating whether or not there's enough evidence to demote him and take a star? What do you think about all that?
Well, first of all, by their own logic and by their own standards, General Milley's a criminal, right? Why would he need a pardon? He obviously did something wrong, correct? And it's great that they took the portrait down, but I'll tell you what, Sean, I almost prefer the humiliation route. I think I would have left the portrait up. I would have just changed the plaque. Like I said this before, I'm serious. It should say something like, here is General Milley, a total moron who doesn't know how blitzkrieg works, got the entire NATO offensive obliterated by the Russian army, and oh, by the way, must be a criminal because he needed a pardon from Joe Biden, who's also a criminal. Like, I would have put that in the plaque and let that hang on the wall, bro. I'd have let it ride. Who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him? Could do whatever he wants. Those VA employees, back in 2017, wanted to play games with Trump's portrait. Then nothing's off the table.
Yeah,
now,
wait, what happened with that? Did this slip my mind somehow?
It didn't. Well, it's not happening now. Although I imagine that's because, they've been through it and they know. And you maybe understand what I'm talking about. I'm waiting for the tone to change at the VA again. It went right back to being garbage like it was under Obama. And under Trump, especially with the reforms, they went from being out of control bureaucrats who don't care at all about the veterans. And this is a general statement, but it's a generally true statement. And it's sad, but it's true. To being somebody who maybe they're kissing your butt because they're worried about their job, but who cares? They're kissing your butt and you deserve your butt kissed. So, I mean, and honestly, I didn't realize until I left Florida as my primary how good I had it, and I really now understand and feel for some of the other nightmare stories out there. But the tone will change, and I imagine they're not going to try any tricks like they tried in 17 because it's just a different ball game. I mean, it's like, honestly,
you like what President Trump and Secretary Hegseth are doing with Milley. I mean, my perspective on it,
of
Rich,
course.
It's like if you're a private, an Army private, and you lose your rifle, they might put you in jail. Like you lose the sensitive item like night vision, they will dock your pay until you pass from this earth until you pay it back.
You don't turn that into S2. What happens to you?
Exactly.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And, not for nothing, but he really needs to be made an example of because he is this generation, or he represents this class of brass who has completely lost sight of the mission. They have been insufficient, inadequate, unsatisfactory in their performance basically their entire careers. The guy doesn't know how to win a war, even if you gave him full reign to win a war. Like, we are in deep trouble when it comes to our military minds. And part of that is because of the culture that people like Milley and others have allowed to fester in the, in our armed services. He needs to be, proverbial, of course, but I mean, he needs to be tarred and feathered over like, he really does. And the fact that he got a pardon I'm not somebody who
It's
thinks,
such a good point. It's such a good point.
what did you do wrong, brother? What
He
did you do
clearly
wrong?
he clearly did. I mean, you don't accept it's a preemptive part. So like no one, that's the
Preemptive
thing.
part.
No one even knows what the hell it's for.
Yeah.
And it goes
Sean,
back
when
to
was the
like what,
last time
2014?
Yeah, right. Again, before all of this blurring of the lines between the Biden family financial interest and U.S. foreign policy in Eastern Europe. And obviously, he had a role in that. And, yeah, and look, there's a group of people, him among them, who really blew the lid and started going rogue when Donald Trump started to become a problem and threatened that gravy train. So it's like the first Trump impeachment should have showed everybody that a lot of the foreign policy or the foreign assistance, especially military assistance, is a major grift. It's a major money laundering project. This isn't the freaking Marshall Plan. It's not anywhere near it. We don't even live in a world like that anymore. But the Marshall Plan worked because it was assistance going to it was like Western assistance going to other Western assistance. Those were established, instituted nation states that have Western values and Western economies, fully industrialized economies, and also corruption protections. No country's perfect, but that's why this scam where we just send assistance all over the world doesn't work.
I
By the
honestly
way, the
think
academic thing is clear.
it feels to me like a huge money laundering operation
Of course
for
it
the
is.
elite. I mean, did you
Of course
see
it
like some of the stuff that they busted out, like $50 million in condoms for people in Gaza that Hamas just uses for bombs? And then they're finding like, 85 million for diversity scholarships in Burma. Like, and the list goes on and on and on of things like that. And you're like,
Yeah.
you think to yourself, they're really spending $85 million on diversity scholarships in Burma? Really?
UNICEF is another horrible example of this, especially when it comes to Hamas. All of that money, being used supposedly, we need concrete. UNICEF is building schools, blah, blah, blah. What a load of crap. They end up going to terror tunnels all beneath Israel. It's a major scam. And, this thing with RFK, I don't mean to jump off topic already. It's like Pete went through it. RFK is going through it now.
Yeah,
Gabbard is
yeah.
going to go through it. What this really is all about is about like the status quo attempting to stop big changes
That's
to
exactly right.
scams that are designed not to help you, not to help me, not even to advance U.S. foreign policy or security, whatever topic it is that you're talking about. In the case of RFK, it's certainly not to advance the health of the American public. Look at how much money obviously went to the Wuhan Institute, which resulted in what? Sean, come on. We've danced around the bush, but we're all going to find out the truth very soon, which is truth most of us already know, which is that we had a hand in designing a virus that leaked out of an institute. And we designed it and it killed us and a lot of people around the globe. And I actually don't think the leak is going to be the end of this story. Maybe
I
I'm
agree
wrong,
completely.
but I don't think it was leaked at all. I think Donald Trump was a existential threat to this whole entire status quo because, folks, they have designed this system to benefit them and to perpetuate this system, to self-perpetuate the bureaucracy and those who live off of the blob, whether it's legally or illegally, and often it is illegal, but it's working real well for them. It's killing the rest of us. It's killing the rest of us, literally. But it's working great for them, and they are going to do everything they can to try to stop it. And Jack Posobo, Jack Poso and I, Posobiec, we were talking about this the other week, last week, and we were saying how like everyone's, of course, rightfully focused on Pete, but the military-industrial complex is bad. So is Big Pharma. Wait, and I mean, we saw today multiple Democratic senators, obviously reading from sheets written by Pfizer lobbyists and Moderna lobbyists, including one that was an utter embarrassment from Mark Warner, who didn't, he just read, I don't know if they pre-read this stuff beforehand and even look over the idiocy that they're about to regurgitate out of their mouth.
I don't think so. Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, so a quick update on So I definitely want to talk about RFK, but
Yeah.
so Senate confirms Lee Zeldin, right?
Yep.
Is the administrator of Trump's EPA, 56-42. Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for AG, is out of committee, out of judiciary, 12-10.
Yep.
And then RFK is in the hot seat today, and he has a series of 2 different hearings. He's got his hearing today, which I'm telling you,
He knocked it out.
just home run. Look,
Home run.
I what I've
You
told
can
people
impress
in the
Tom
chat-
Tillis, bro.
Yeah, listen, man,
You
I'm
can see
telling
it.
you, he I disagree with him on a lot.
Me too.
Lot. But it's clear to me that he is in this for the right reasons. He's asking the right questions. You know, there is desperate need for reform within HHS. And never in my life, Rich, I'm telling you, man, every one of these hearings, it just makes it more clear to me that never in my life have I seen a group of people in this new Democrat Party that are so vehemently opposed to critical thinking and thinking about things differently and asking very basic questions about, hey, is the way that we've always done things the best way? Clearly, there's been a meteoric rise in diabetes, in autoimmune diseases. These vaccines, all my kids are vaccinated, right? Like
allergies.
In allergies. Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
asking questions. I mean, are the chemicals in our food making us unsafe? A lot of these chemicals are banned in Europe. And these Democrats, not only do they not think like that, they accuse him of being dangerous for simply asking questions. And so listen to this sound. This is RFK talking about healthy kids and the rise of all these crazy diseases. And just listen to this, and then I want to get your take on it. It's like, how can any American disagree with this? Listen to this.
Yeah.
I want to say something about what you first said. When I launched my campaign, it was about uniting Americans, Democrats and Republicans. There's no issue that should unite us more than this chronic health epidemic. There's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. These are our kids. 66% of them are damaged. I know what a healthy kid looks like because I had so many of them in my family. I didn't know anybody with a food allergy growing up, peanut allergy. Why do 5 of my kids have allergies? Why are we seeing these explosions in diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, neurological diseases, depression, all of these things that are related to toxics in the environment? Why can't we just agree with each other to put differences about so many issues, intractable issues aside, and say, we're going to end this? I don't think anybody is going to be able to do this like I have, because of my peculiar experience, because I've litigated against these agencies. When you litigate against them, you get a PhD in corporate capture and how to unravel it. I've written 6 books about these agencies. I know a lot about them, and I know how to fix it. And there's nobody who will fix it the way that I do, because I'm not scared of vested interests. I don't care. I'm not here because I want a position or a job. I have a very good life and a happy family. This is something I don't need. I want to do this because we're going to fix it. And the other thing is, we are attracting now a caliber of people to HHS like never before in history. And they're entrepreneurs, they're disruptors, they're innovators of immense talent that are walking away, many of them from growing concerns. They're not coming there for position. They're coming there because they want to save our country. And they're from across the political spectrum. And all these Democrats are opposed to me for partisan issues. They used to be my friends, agreed with me on all the environmental issues that I've been working on for my whole career. Now they're against me because anything that President Trump does, any decision he makes, has to be lampooned, derided, discredited, marginalized, vilified.
I am so glad he said that part at the end.
Yeah.
All these people were my friends just 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Now they're all, I mean, it's just like you could see through the bullshit, man. It's insane how dumb. I'm sorry to say it, but these Democrats are just so patently stupid when it comes to this. And they got their asses kicked in this election. Thank God they did. But these questions that they're asking, not just of RFK, but of all of these people, show exactly why they got their asses kicked. They're the party of the past. They have no answers for any of the problems that we face as a country. None.
I feel like this is why they're losing. They had 2 days last week where they were on message, even though it was a lie. When they were on message with the freezing government spending, and they was on point for a little bit, and then they went off the rails again. And I did discuss this a little bit on my show today. First of all, I don't think any of those senators even know what corporate capture is. I'm serious. I am deadly serious. I'm sure they're all very stupid and don't understand what that term means. But also, they don't understand. You take somebody like, what's his name? Ron, right? And he's going on and on about things that he said about the vaccine's efficacy and et cetera, for the mRNA vaccine. You got Elizabeth Warren arguing that there's other things we can do other than to allow people to sue vaccine companies if those vaccines hurt you. Like every talking point they're using is from 2020. They're in the past. They're on the ass end of it, man, when it comes to our research. And trust me, we are right. It is an overwhelming majority of the American public who agree that it's bipartisan. It cuts across all race, age, party demographics, ideological demographics. They are arguing that they are the party of corporatism now, which, by the way, is a new modern word for fascism. It means the same thing. It's when the government is in a partnership with the private sector and directs labor, capital, manufacturing, etc. That's called fascism. That's the economic definition of it. Right? So they're arguing this, and they're not winning these battles because Americans elected President Trump to do bigger things, and they want to stick with the show. And I don't know if you have this clip. I don't want to blow it, but Ron Johnson channeled the American voter today in that hearing when he just said,
man, I don't have it. I wish I did.
And like at some point, the show has to end. Americans do care about this stuff. We have enormous problems, and we're never going to be able to fix them if we cannot at least come together on the issues where we know there's overwhelming consensus. Like, you're really going to sit here and argue that the lobbyists that were hired after the pandemic from Pfizer should have a bigger, greater voice in that chamber than the voters who just elected a president. We just had an election who told the voter what they intended to do. This Make America Healthy Again agenda, at first I did not. It's not that I didn't take it seriously. I just didn't think it would be as significant as it ended up being in this election. It is very significant.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Let me set the stage. What I said to my wife today, I'm like, these Republicans, here you have President Trump wins this historic victory in spite of all the shit they threw at him. And RFK Jr., lifelong Democrat, family of one of the most well-known Democrat family maybe in America's history. Seriously.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what? I'm done. He crosses the aisle, wants to work with Donald Trump. The people that he brought to the table, the coalition of support that he had, helped Donald Trump win this election.
Of course.
And these Republicans who have benefited in the Senate and in the House, but in the Senate as well, mostly in the Senate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
They're the ones that benefit a lot from this, yet they're the same ones that might not vote for him. It's just insane to me. It just it defies all logic for me, Rich. And so I'm glad you're bringing up the coalition, because whether it's Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr., they were vital parts to the Trump coalition this cycle. And why we would screw them over and not confirm them is beyond me, because Trump made a promise to not just RFK Jr., but every member of his movement that he would support Make America Healthy Again. And he's making good on those promises, and Republican senators are like, well, I don't know. It just bothers me. It just bothers me.
Tom Tillis should keep in mind that Donald Trump now has won his state by margins he has never been able to touch twice. All right. Obviously, in Pennsylvania, there was a gap between the top of the ticket and down ballot Republicans. Trump outperformed everybody. There's a reason for that. We know from the polling. We went over this in great detail in the Great Lakes states and the Mid-Atlantic, and even in New England. His support and the Make America Healthy Again movement was a significant part of that coalition. He won Michigan, one of the states where we identified and we said, look, there are pockets of Kennedy supporters, and here are the top 5 states. And guess what? Michigan was one of them. And what happened? Michigan, the state that everyone thought was the hardest of the big 3 to win, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, turned out to vote for Donald Trump at a higher rate than even Wisconsin did, at a larger margin than even Wisconsin. And I'm telling you, that coalition had a big hand in that. Mike Rogers, he fell short, right? Why? The National Republican Senatorial Committee would do good to keep this into consideration. There was a down ballot candidate in Wisconsin, but guess what? There were third-party ballots at the presidential level too, and Trump still won. So Eric Hovde fell short. Why? It's nothing against Eric Hovde. He didn't really have a record. Mike Rogers did, right? Sam Brown, he fell short for numerous reasons. But here's the bottom line. There are voters in that coalition. They're not sure if they can trust the Republican senators. And every single day, they know they can trust Trump, but every single day when these Republican senators pull this crap, they're giving these voters another reason to validate their skepticism of them. They're not going to be transmutated or actually just like transposed from Trump voters to Republican voters. That's not going to happen. These people have got to make a decision if they want to win them over. Are those donors and those lobbyists more important, and should they be given more weight than the actual voter? And here's for people who say, well, of course, Rich, that's who pays the bills, that's who runs their campaigns. Here's what I'd have to say to them. That really doesn't matter if you don't have a damn voter base. All right, so they can give you all the money under the God's great sky. It doesn't matter if you can't win a winning coalition. If you can't put
Rich,
together a winning coalition.
I got the Ron Johnson sound. The great rock star. He's rock star. He's listening and watching, listening to the show, logs into the studio and uploads the sound for me. This guy's a pro.
My man.
First time listeners, viewers, this is the producer extraordinaire for the great Wendy Bell on our show from 9 to 12. If you're not following and subscribing over on the Wendy Bell radio show, you definitely need to do it. But check out this Ron Johnson sound, the sound that Rich Baris was referencing earlier.
Bobby, this is an answer to my prayers. We need to get to the answers of this, but even more, we need to heal and unify this divided nation. I'm not necessarily the most optimistic guy because we've got enormous challenges facing this nation, but I thought, wow, here's somebody from the left, somebody I don't agree with on many issues politically, coming together with President Trump and focusing on an area of agreement, something that the American people desperately want. Finding out the answers. What has caused autism? What is causing chronic illness? Ms. Kennedy, I think I've come to know what's in your heart. I think I know the personal and political price you've paid for this decision. I want to say publicly, I thank you for that. I truly appreciate what you're doing here. Can't we come together as a nation and do this? Can we do? Aren't you getting tired of this? I'm getting tired of this. So again, Mr. Kennedy, I need to enter in the record. These are just 11 letters of support signed by 63,000 people, thousands of doctors. From the American Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, Independent Medical Alliance, the North Carolina Physicians and Freedom Group, Governor Jeff Landry from Louisiana. These are Americans, nonpartisan. A lot of these people I know because I've advocated with you. A lot of them are Democrats. They put their political differences aside. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter this in the record.
Without objection.
Wow, that I'm so glad. Thank you, Brock, for doing that. But that was powerful because Rich, it encapsulates how I feel about RFK. I don't like, and I think it speaks volumes of our movement, the America First movement. And I'm not talking about traditional Republicanism. I'm talking about Trump's
MAGA.
Republican Party.
Yep.
Yes. Like, we want to solve the problems that are set before us today. It's not about the Republican answer or the Democrat answer. It's about the right answer. And yes. And the left, man, they just don't freaking get it. They are partisan hack liars. And I mean that.
Yeah.
They disgust me in their approach to issues. A perfect example of that, of just their lies and hoaxes, are how they reacted to this federal funding freeze, saying it would freeze entitlements and Medicare, Medicaid, Meals on Wheels. All of that was a complete lie.
Total
It was
fabrication.
all a complete lie, but they did it because they thought that it would help them hurt President Trump. And that sickens me, man. And their questions, by the way, during this hearing, I'm sorry, like, I got 2 sound bites that I want you to listen to, because I just want to, I want your reaction to them, but I also just want to make fun of them because they're just idiots. But listen to the soundbite between RFK. Yeah. Listen to the soundbite between RFK and Liz Warren.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. You know what? She's taken over $5 million from Big Pharma.
I was just going to say, she rode Big Pharma's D today. This woman who wants us to believe that she's some champion of the consumer. Do you remember that? She is the author of the Consumer Protection Bureau. And here she is making sure that vaccine companies can hurt you in any way, shape, or form they want. And they have hacks like her to force their product on you, to create a fake market for their product, a fake need that it doesn't arise naturally, to carve one out and then make you take it, all because they give her money. Her care for the voter and the consumer is about as real as the Native American DNA she claims to have running through her veins. She is so full of shit. And by the way, I just want to say
I don't know why it took me a little while to dawn on me. I'm like, damn, nice work. Well done.
Dude, and I just want to say this about Johnson, because she's a perfect example of what Johnson was just talking about, and why MAGA does appeal and did appeal to so many different kinds of people: black, white, young, old, working class, upper middle class, everyone this time. It's because of that exhaustion he was talking about. They're exhausted with that bullshit. They're sick of that bullshit. The 4 Freedoms poll that we did, which I again mocked, more than 2 in 10, 1 in 5 Americans said that they know someone personally, right? Someone close to them is how we phrased it, or they themselves, who suffered a severe adverse effect from the COVID-19 vaccine. Less than half of the country believes that it is safe and effective. And this woman's going on. See, this is the worst part about it. They're acting as if these people deserve the credibility that they're lending to, right? This is an organization that oversees departments and agencies that took bribes from Purdue to allow them to claim OxyContin was less addictive than other opiates on the market. That fat slob piece of shit, after taking that bribe, then 6 months later spent most of his days in the pool at Purdue Pharma staring at Hooters. These people are not some kind of above reproach class of people who care only about the science and not of money. No, it turns out they're flawed, they're fallible, just like the rest of us, Sean. They love money just like the rest of us, and they pretend like they're better. They pretend. I call them expert lies. All of these things we keep hearing about. They also brought up conspiracy theories, right? The otherwise known as expert lies. something that turns out to be true 6 months down the road, they call a conspiracy theory that once was brought to us and sold to us as expert truth. And they actually turned out to be just nothing but expert lies. 6 months later, they're no longer conspiracy theories. They're the truth, and they're the truth that we uncovered and found out that those experts that she's holding up to be so believable and so credible actually ended up just being common lying thieves.
It's such a good point. It's such a good point about the whole expert lies thing. And I'm reminded of this segment between Dan Crenshaw and Caitlin Collins on CNN. Caitlin Collins is like berating him about, trans folks in the military and how, Crenshaw's basically saying, his point is they're absolutely non-deployable. You get a surgery, a gender-altering surgery. What are we
arguing here?
Well, yeah, 12 months of heavy narcotics, and then all these hormones absolutely makes you non-deployable. And she goes, well, you're not a doctor. Shouldn't those decisions be made by a doctor? I'm like, why do I need a doctor to tell me what is blatantly obvious?
To tell us an expert lie.
To tell us an expert lie. And that's exactly how they try to
write a book.
People.
Expert lies. I should write a book because I'm serious. I should gather up all the BS that they've ever taught us, all these experts ever told us that turned out to be just pure bullshit. Dr. Fauci is constantly celebrated. You'll hear him get accolades going back to the AIDS epidemic. The National Institute of Health kept less toxic drugs out of the hands of patients who tried to obtain them illegally and illicitly so they could push Dr. Fauci's friends' toxic AZT on the population while they all died. Like, this is unbelievable, Sean, that we relive this stuff and rewrite the history of it all. It's truly unbelievable. And those other drugs that that they fought. There's no other word. They fought and prevented people to get later on ended up being standard treatments, and they had to reduce AZT because it was toxic and killing people. So and they celebrate him for it. They celebrate him for it, Sean, while people were being tested like guinea pigs so his friends could make money. There's a recent example of them doing just that with their stupid viral pill that cost $2,000 a pop for COVID that did not work. It didn't work. And as it turns out, something cheap, and I don't know if I want to get you. Oh, you're not on YouTube. I don't have to worry about it. As it turns out, remdesivir didn't do shit, did it? Right? And you could have just taken hydroxychloroquine for $3 a pill instead, and you probably would have ended up with the same, if not better, results, as it turns out after all, right? And by the way, ivermectin is not a horse paste, all right? This is another expert lie. 51 intelligence agencies said that Biden's laptop is Russian propaganda. Expert lie, right? This is routine in our lifestyle or our way of life. It's routine. I don't know when we put this professional class, I don't care what they're from, the healthcare industry to the financial sector, the military. When did we put these so-called experts up on a pedestal to tell us things that a common sense you could deduce through common sense? No other illness, even one that would be genetic, would be tolerated, putting you out and making you just completely non-deployable like they have for, transgender surgeries in the military. You could catch something legit, folks. You could have something genetically wrong with you. They are not going to let you sit without being deployed or without being usable for a year in the military. They're going to put your ass out on the street with a medical discharge. But no, the experts tell us otherwise with transgender. We make it a civil rights issue. And all of a sudden they expect to be paying somebody for 13, 14 months for doing nothing in the U.S. military. That doesn't happen with anybody else. Nobody else.
I agree with you completely.
Give me 6 months to rehabilitate a friggin' femur.
Yeah,
femoral neck, technically.
It's really, you're absolutely right. And okay, the other piece of sound from the RFK hearing that was just equally absurd to all the stuff that you just laid out so perfectly, by the way, was I've been laughing about this since it happened. Seriously. Two things, folks. I want you to listen to the soundbite, but if you're watching the show, I want you to look in the background to the left of RFK as he's being asked these questions by Bernie Sanders.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, just watch.
Supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell.
Okay, just listen to it again. It's amazing.
So unserious.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will.
Are you supportive of these onesies? I'm thinking,
You do him. You do Trump. You do a lot of people good, bro. You really
I'm thinking I'm watching A Few Good Men while a prosecutor's asking, "Did you order the code red?" But he's not asking about
these onesies.
Yeah, he's not asking about a code red. He's asking about a onesies. You're damn right. I support these onesies. I mean, what the hell is happening? And in the background, to the left of RFK, so RFK, in the middle of that line of questioning, starts laughing to himself. But then you can see Megyn Kelly back there just breaking down,
laughing
because these Democrats are just so absurdly stupid. I don't care what anyone says. They're fundamentally unserious people. They have no answers for the American people.
Man.
And I mean, seriously, somebody in Bernie Sanders' office blew up those onesies and made poster boards out of them so they could be shown in a Senate hearing while he grills RFK Jr. about onesies. I mean, are you
Johnson
freaking
and
kidding
Johnson, bro? That was Johnson and Johnson. They're pushing. They're making sure they get their money's worth from that senator.
He took $1.5 million from
I
Big
think
Pharma.
that onesie, brother. I think that onesie is the same onesie from the liquid shampoo campaign they pushed. It looks like the same color and everything. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if they just copied and pasted that on top of the onesie they used for that marketing campaign. Look, there was one time where he was I showed this as a clip, a part of it anyway, as a clip where because I was trying to find an example where they weren't unserious, right? And maybe there was a clip where we can give people an example of a legitimate intellectual debate. And then here's the kicker about it, though. It was a debate over whether or not RFK believed that healthcare was a human right. And here's first of all, I'll get into why I don't really believe he was being honest about that. It's just a talking point to get to it's just a talking point to help achieve the same goal as the real motive, which is to protect Big Pharma, right? So he goes on, and RFK gives him the not typical right-wing answer about why he does not think that healthcare is a human right. And Bernie Sanders wasn't used to getting that. He's used to
cut him off.
And he tried to cut him off, right? But here's the kicker anyway. That question's totally irrelevant because, as you know, and you know, Pete, so you went through the process. I'm sure somebody explained to you the standard. The standard for U.S. senators to vote whether to confirm or not confirm a president's cabinet pick has nothing really to do with a difference of opinion. It's whether or not they're qualified, and he is eminently qualified to do this job. That's it. That is the standard. Or, of course, whether they did something and they hold a view that is like antithetical to U.S. The U.S. system, the way we do.
Right.
And by the way, like Lloyd Austin not believing in civilian control of the military is absolutely a disqualifying view.
Absolutely.
All right. Right. I mean, that's a disqualifying view. But thinking that healthcare is not a human right because if you unfairly burden the system by smoking for 30, 40 years, and then you want free healthcare because it's a universal right, he twisted that on Bernie, and Bernie didn't know what to do with it.
He didn't know what to do.
He didn't know what, because that's a left-wing interpretation of why it's not. But it's
you're right. I mean, listen, Rich,
brilliant
he turned it around on him.
Totally.
And he's fundamentally correct. So when Obamacare gets passed, I'm a young 30-something. I'm a young 30-something. Now I'm forced to buy healthcare monthly that's super expensive. Otherwise, I have to pay a fee to subsidize somebody. To subsidize somebody who is, perhaps older, perhaps smoked their whole life, or maybe was unhealthy. It just didn't seem fair to me at the time. And I think that's why RFK made the point in his hearing that people are very, very, very unhappy with Obamacare and would rather be on private insurance if they can afford it.
And the right wing, for people who don't know the difference, I mean, we just explained what he said. That's more like a left wing fairness issue or populist fairness issue. And that's Bernie's language. And yet he wasn't expecting it to be hurled at him. So he just tried to cut him off and redirect because he didn't know what to do with that. But the right wing, typical right wing answer to it not being a human right is because you cannot tell a doctor or a physician who did he put the 8 years of his time, probably financial resources, into getting that profession, right? The ability to practice medicine. You can't now tell him that he's not allowed to charge or be compensated for his labor, right? And so that's why it's not a human right, because you cannot force that man to do work for nothing, or woman to do that work for nothing, to practice his trade, to practice his craft for nothing. That's like indentured servitude or slavery, right? So the only way Bernie can get around that is by saying, but the government pays for it. The government's going to compensate him. And that was why it was so brilliant that RFK just did what he did, because you're now saying the government should just compensate everyone willy-nilly for treating a guy who was not a good collectivist. He was an unfair burden on the system. He smoked for 40 years. He poisoned the pool. So like that's Bernie talk. That's speaking of Bernie in his own language, and he just didn't know what to do with it. He knows what to do with the right wing answer. He knows and he's practiced and he's ready, but he is not ready for what RFK threw at him, which was just beautiful. And I'm watching it and I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then I saw him going that way, going a different way, and I'm like, oh wow, that was good. Because honestly, I probably would have fallen into that trap. I would have went the right wing way.
You know what else is kind of crazy is that we got a lot from Cortez Masto, senator from Nevada, was asking questions about, like, are you going to obey Trump? Are you
next time?
Yeah, definitely. But it's like more of like, are you just going to be a rubber stamp for Trump? Are you just going to like just listen to everything Trump says? And I keep thinking to myself, the American people elected Trump.
You mean obey the right?
They elected Donald Trump because they want his agenda implemented. It doesn't mean you have to be a yes man, but what the Democrats are pushing these cabinet nominees to say is that they will disobey Trump. They will not move forward with the agenda that Trump was elected to put in place. That's the whole point. And ultimately, to me, every time I hear it, it's an insult to the American people who put Trump there.
It is, because we've talked about this before. He is an extension of their sovereignty. The voter is the sovereign. Collectively, we are the sovereign. We have no other representative in the executive branch other than the president. He or she, right, when she is elected, is an extension of our sovereignty. And then they pick their cabinet, they fill their government, and they act on our behalf. What the Democratic senators are asking all of these nominees is, will you not acknowledge that the voter is sovereign, and will you engage in sedition? I mean, that is what they're
exactly.
Just come out and say it. Are you willing to engage in sedition? It's incredible. I cannot honestly believe that not one of Trump's who would think they'd ask you such a question? But now that we have seen them ask it over and over again, I am dying for somebody, hopefully it's Tulsi or something, to just come out and saying, Senator, are you asking me to subvert the will of the U.S. voter? And
that's exactly what they're asking.
And their duly elected representative. Are you asking me whether or not I agree with the fundamentals of democracy and self-governance? Because what you're talking about is not self-governance. What you're talking about is a bureaucratic tyranny that comes out like a wellspring of fascism, which is what you guys preach day in and day out with this bullshit. I mean, they can leave that part off, but you know what I'm saying? But like, the first part, they should absolutely say. Absolutely. And by the way, the right better get very familiar with this term, fascism. It's not corporatism. There's no corporatist wing of the Democratic Party. That is a nice new shiny word. They repackage fascism. It's like every year for Christmas, somebody gets the gift they don't want to get. Maybe they try to pass it off next Christmas to somebody else. It's the same shitty gift nobody wants. They just put new shiny paper on it. All corporatism is shiny paper, new shiny paper. It was last year's shitty fascism that nobody wanted, making the rounds again. Come on, people. Don't fall into their vernacular. And speaking of vernacular, you know what's crazy? The last thing I'll say.
Okay.
They constantly were calling him a conspiracy theorist, and Tom Tillis honestly did well with this. And he said, "Do you believe in any conspiracy theories? Right? Are you a conspiracy theorist in anything, or have you pushed something that ended up being a conspiracy theory?" And he wasn't saying it to be a prick. He was saying it so RFK could literally say nothing I pushed ended up being a conspiracy theory. And the ironic part about all of this is that the term conspiracy theory, to mean what we know it today, did not show up in the American vernacular until the New York Times began to use it in their coverage of people, particularly alternative investigators, who did not believe the commission investigating his uncle's assassination. And now they're using it. It's almost insulting. Now they're taking that term.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it was like, no, if you didn't believe the Warren Commission, you're a conspiracy theorist, right? If you didn't believe the government's official account of the assassination of JFK, which of course whitewashed their participation in it, if you don't believe that, you're a conspiracy theorist, right? And now they have the audacity to use this as a course with negative connotations to attack his nephew. It's just unbelievable. Some stuff is like unserious and laughable, Sean, and even pathetic. Like, like we cannot rise to the occasion and fix some of these, or at least there's a big part of the government that's fighting our ability to do that. Like you said before, like that's the difference between MAGA and everything else. And then there's just a hubris that's just so insulting. It actually is insulting, and I cannot believe it's to the point of it's like offensive. It's an insult that really offends. This is a term you created to whitewash his uncle's murder, and now you're using it to attack him. Dishonestly, by the way, because what Wyden did was leave off that six-year-old cutoff. Because I know that case. Barnes was on the case too. That was dealing with the ability to prevent mandates on for the COVID vaccine with 6 years and younger, and he brought that up. That you pushed this conspiracy theory and tried to take vaccines from people. It's just it's so offensive. It really is. It's so offensive.
Savage Rich, tell us where we can find you.
It's that time already, isn't it? Oh, wow.
The show is like on it goes so fast.
Best place as always is on Locals, brother. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com.
All right. Anything on deck for you and Savage Laura this weekend?
Oh, the usual.
Lululemon, maybe drive around in the Subaru, maybe hit Lowe's. I don't know if we'll have time.
I was thinking we'll snug in our Lululemon together, curl up, watch The Notebook or something. No, brother, work as always. The administration keeps us on our toes, doesn't he? I mean, don't they? That's the difference between the Trump administration and anything else. And I'm not saying Bush W was lazy, certainly wasn't, but like Obama was a lazy dude. Bill Clinton was effective, but he was a little lazy. Got up late, came to this guy just keeps going, bro. It never ends. Never ends. And he keeps you on your toes. You're ready for a show an hour before it, and you got to change a whole segment.
I know. It's that's what I was saying at the top of the show. I'm like, it's amazing. It's like there's so much stuff happening. In order to cover all of it, you have to like move quickly, because there's always something new breaking.
Yeah, it's fun though. Like I said, the media hates it because they are lazy. And you saw them today with all of their pre-printed headlines in WordPress.
Oh my God, yeah.
Ready to go. This is who they are. It's a perfect example. That's who they are. Well, that's what they do. That's their system.
Have a great week, my friend. I'll see you soon.
You too, brother. Take it easy. Best to you and yours.
All right, take care, my friend. That's Savage Rich Baris, the best pollster in the business. Definitely go follow, subscribe, People's Pundit on Rumble. It's a great show, Inside the Numbers. Definitely subscribe to him on Locals too if you can. You get first look at all of this new polling, and he was the most accurate pollster of 2024. We have him on the show every single Wednesday for well over a year now. He's the best, and there's a reason why we have him on. So definitely support Savage Rich Baris. Okay, we've all seen the headlines. Cyber attacks on our power grids, drones in the sky, violent attacks on everyday Americans. The ugly truth is no leader, no system can protect you from everything. And the last thing I want is to be standing in line, depending upon help that may not ever come. And when crisis hits, food is always the first casualty. Everyone needs it, and panic buying makes things worse. That's why I've made sure my family is prepared with my Patriot Supply. Their 4-week emergency food kit gives you the nutrition you need to stay strong in a crisis, with up to 2,000 calories a day, 100% of your daily value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals. This kit keeps you going when every meal matters. Right now, they're offering $50 off their 4-week emergency food kit. All you got to do is go to preparewithvnn.com right now to grab yours. Don't put this off. Now's the time to prepare. That is preparewithvnn.com to get your 4-week food kit today. All right, folks. Smash that like button, that little gray thumb beneath the video. When you smash it, it turns green. When it turns green, it propels us to the leaderboard. Smash that like button on your way out. And as always, folks, that's it for Battleground Live. God bless you all, and God bless this amazing country that we call home. Take care. Good night. And I will see you on Thursday. Have a good night.
Oklahoma. Valamas, 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 Isa, Valamas, Somas, Valamas, Zokonta. Valamas, Zokonta. Valamas, Zokonta. Zokonta. Homus. Zokonta. Homus. Homus. Yuri. Homus. Oklahoma. Isa. Oklahoma. Isa. Isa. Valamas. Zokonta. 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 Homus. Glory. Zokonta. Zokonta. Yuri. Valamas. Homus. Valamas. Homus. Valamas. Somas. Valamas. Somas. Homus. Valamas. Homus. Somas. Valamas. Valamas. Somas. Retarded. Valamas. Homus. Valamas. Homus. Yuri. Homus. Rogan? Somas. Yuri. Zokonta. Valamas. Somas. Homus. Valamas. Somas. Valamas. Holmes, Polare, Alamas, Holmes,